After the bankruptcy, my ex-boyfriend said he wanted to get revenge on me. He paid off all my family's debts and forced me to be his secret lover. But after a few nights, he changed his mind. He ordered, "Let's get married. I'll put you in a real grave." I was too tired to think straight. "Fine, whatever you want." Xie Yan seemed stung. His voice raised. "Don't overthink it. I'm just getting revenge on you." I turned over. I'm so hungry. The air went suddenly quiet. A few seconds later, I heard the sound of eggs frying in the kitchen. And a faint voice. "Almost done, wife. So you spent 3 years turning things around, not to hate me, but to pamper me back." I'm Zhang Wan, a daughter of the Beijing elite. I've been spoiled since I was a child, living in luxury. The hardest thing I've ever endured in my life was probably dating a poor college boyfriend. He had too much pride and never accepted my money. But I really liked him. I liked his handsome face, his firm body, his furrowed brows when he was angry, and the way his eyes softened when he was moved. So, that stuffy summer and windy winter in the rented apartment, I stubbornly stayed with him for 3 years. Until, the night before graduation, my father found me. "Break up with that poor guy. The Liu family is here to propose." I didn't really pay attention. My mind was still on that night when I left the rented apartment, and Xie Yan said he'd make me egg noodles. My father probably saw I wasn't listening. He raised his voice. "Zhang Wan. Within a week, break up with him, or I'll freeze all your bank cards." That made me panic. "Dad, I'm your only daughter. Are you really going to do this to me?" But he seemed resolute. He wouldn't budge. I sighed deeply and resigned myself. "Fine, I'll break up tonight. I can endure hardship, but there's no need for it. Money and love, I've always known how to separate them." When I got back to the rented apartment, the cramped room was already filled with the smell of frying eggs. Xie Yan was wearing a faded apron, standing at the narrow stove. The light highlighted his smooth shoulder line, giving him a husband-like aura. He turned around, with a faint smile in his eyes. "You're back? The noodles will be ready in a minute." I interrupted him. Calmly, I said, "Xie Yan, let's break up." He paused his movements, slowly turning to look at me. His voice was hoarse. "Reason?" I leaned against the doorframe, trying to appear indifferent. "My dad said, if I don't break up, he'll freeze all my cards." But he took a step forward, his voice anxious. "I got an offer from Jingsheng Capital. The salary is good. I can support you." I raised my hand to stop him. "Xie Yan, big companies pay well, but they can't afford to support me." I watched his face turn pale. I delivered the final blow. "My dad has arranged for me to marry the youngest son of the chairman of Jingsheng Capital. So, this love game ends here." "A game?" He repeated the word, as if chewing on glass shards. 3 years, to you, was just a game?" I steeled myself and nodded. Xie Yan seemed unwilling, stubbornly asking, "Then why choose me to play?" I turned my head, my eyes sweeping across the clean, small bed. I asked him back, "Don't you know?" The air froze for a few seconds. Then, he suddenly laughed, a low laugh filled with self-mockery and bitterness. He reached up, loosened the apron's tie, and walked toward me. He lowered his head, his breath hot in my ear, speaking each word deliberately. "Fine, then, before we break up, let's play one last time." The air was filled with the smell of cooking oil and his faint soap scent. Xie Yan didn't say another word, his kisses falling on me like raindrops. His mouth pressed against my collarbone repeatedly, a sting mixed with numbness. I closed my eyes, not pushing him away. On the narrow bed, the old springs creaked under the weight. His movements were heavier than ever, as though he wanted to carve these 3 years into my bones. In the final moments, I felt the burning wetness on my neck. It was his tears, silently falling. I didn't move or open my eyes. When everything calmed, I quietly got up, groping in the dimness to find my scattered clothes, putting them on one by one. I also pulled out a card and placed it on the wrinkled sheets. "There's 3 million here, as compensation for these 3 years." Xie Yan didn't move, sitting with his back to me on the edge of the bed, a cigarette pinched between his fingers. I don't like the smell of smoke. So, he never smoked in front of me. This was the first time. The smoke spread, sharp and bitter. It cut through the lingering smell of egg noodles in the air. I couldn't stay here any longer. I opened the door and left the rented apartment for good. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Both families were busy preparing for my wedding with Lu Feng. A thick stack of wedding photos came, and a diamond ring sat in a velvet box, dazzling. But I couldn't muster any excitement. My best friend, Tang Tang, leaned in. What are you daydreaming about? You're not still thinking about your poor first love, right? I immediately rolled my eyes, casually grabbing the latest croc skin Birkin. No way. It's just that Lu Feng sent too many things. I don't know which one to open first. Tang Tang gave me a thumbs up. Exactly. Men don't mean a thing. Money and bags are eternal. I forced a smile and didn't say anything. That night, the phone rang loudly, like a funeral bell. The next morning, Lu Feng's family showed up at the door. They spoke politely but coldly about calling off the engagement, and the gift boxes and flowers were taken away unchanged. The third day, the court's seal was slapped on my family's villa's front door. Yes, my family went bankrupt. I didn't even have time to take my collection of rare handbags from the closet or put on my favorite pair of heels. Like a real fallen princess, I was kicked out of the house I'd lived in for over 20 years. The early autumn wind was a little chilly, seeping through my thin silk nightgown. I stood at the door, looking at the 3% battery left on my phone, feeling lost. More helpless than the dying battery was my mother. Her meticulously cared for face had drained of color, and she gripped my hand, trembling nonstop. My father was too busy at the company, couldn't be reached. I gripped her cold hand tightly. It's okay, Mom. Before I could finish, the security guard nearby impatiently shoved my shoulder. Go, go, go. If you want to cry, go cry somewhere else. This is no longer your place. His force was not light. My satin slippers slid out from under me, and I lost my balance, crashing down onto the cold, rough ground. My palms scraped across the floor, the sting of pain shooting up. Just then, a pair of shiny black leather shoes appeared in my blurry vision. I looked up. The autumn sunlight was a bit blinding. Xie Yan stood in front of me, backlit, in a sharp suit, his figure tall. He overlapped with the image of him at the stove wearing an apron, and then quickly tore apart. Maybe it was the sight of my red-rimmed eyes that disgusted him. So, he coldly reminded me, Miss Zhang, don't get the wrong idea, I'm not here to save you. After a pause, he added, I'm here to get revenge on you. Hearing his words, tears came flooding down, soaking my dirty nightgown. Then, I heard a very low breath intake. The owner of those leather shoes crouched down. The expensive suit pants inevitably brushed against the dust. Xie Yan seemed like he wanted to say something, his Adam's apple moving, but in the end, no words came out. Through my blurry tears, I looked at him so close. Then, I reached out my dirty hands toward him. I said, hug me. Time froze for a few seconds. Then, he opened his arms and tightly pulled me into his embrace. Xie Yan's embrace was wide and warm. It carried a strange, expensive perfume, completely isolating me from the cold outside. Stop crying. His cold voice rang above my head, his arms tightening around me. Then, he instructed the assistant beside him, arrange a car, take Mrs. Zhang to Tianfu Mansion, be quiet and take care of her. After saying that, he suddenly picked me up and cradled me in his arms. I instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck and buried my tear-streaked face into his shoulder. Xie Yan didn't take me to where my mother was. The car drove toward the east of the city, the scenery outside shifting from bustling to familiar, then slightly old-fashioned. Finally, it stopped in front of the old building I hadn't seen in 3 years. Xie Yan carried me up the narrow stairs, using a key to open the rusted door. Inside, the furnishings hadn't changed much, except for the small bed, which seemed to have new sheets. He set me down at the edge of the bed, then loosened his tie and took off his suit jacket, casually draping it over the chair. He turned around, looking down at me with an expression that was difficult to read. His voice was low. Zhang Wan, my revenge has just begun. I pretended I didn't hear him and opened my hand, quietly saying, it hurts. He then noticed the fresh red blood seeping from my pale skin. Xie Yan froze for a moment. His expression shifted from indifference to concern. Quickly, he turned around and pulled out a small first aid kit from a cabinet. Iodine, cotton swabs, band-aids. He knelt in front of me, holding my wrist gently, though his disinfecting actions were somewhat clumsy. The iodine felt cool, and he gently blew on my palm. Hang in there. When he finally applied the band-aid, he seemed to snap back to reality. His voice turned cold as ice. Stop being so dramatic. You're not a young lady anymore. I nodded, looking at my nightgown stained with dirt. I murmured, Xie Yan, I feel so dirty, I want to take a bath. He stood up and opened the old wardrobe. Inside, he surprisingly found my college pajamas. Xie Yan handed them to me. I frowned. No, they've been there for years, covered in dust. His ears turned red as he looked away. His voice grew softer. I washed them 3 days ago. I took the pajamas, sniffed them, and indeed, they smelled faintly of laundry detergent and sunlight. I didn't ask why he suddenly washed my pajamas. I walked straight into the bathroom. The bathroom mirror fogged up from the steam. When I came out wearing the old pajamas, Xie Yan was standing by the window, smoking. A red tip of the cigarette flickered. When he heard the sound, he extinguished the cigarette and turned around. His gaze rested on me for a second, then quickly moved away. Then, he entered the bathroom. When he came out, I was already lying on the bed, resting. He turned off the light and lay down on the other side. In the darkness, Xie Yan's breathing was clear, tinged with the bitter smell of tobacco. After a while, his hand found my waist under the covers. It was burning hot, with a slight tremor. I didn't pull away. He turned over, casting a shadow over me, his breathing heavy. In the darkness, Xie Yan's eyes shone brightly. This is revenge too, he whispered, as though convincing himself. Then, his kiss came down. I don't know how much time passed. He thought I was asleep. From behind, he wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me into his embrace. His voice was low and hoarse. Wan, you're not dirty. His warm breath brushed over the back of my neck. Xie Yan fell into a deep sleep. But my eyes remained unusually clear. The next day, when I woke up, he was already buttoning his shirt. The morning light outlined the smooth lines of his shoulders and back, a stark contrast to the slender youth I remembered. I was mesmerized. But then he suddenly turned back, his lips curling into a smirk. Seen enough? My cheeks flushed, and I didn't say anything. Xie Yan continued, Zhang Wan, let's make a deal. Last night, I was pretty satisfied with your performance. I can pay off your family's debt. I looked at him and asked, what's the catch? He met my eyes and said, you, stay. I didn't hesitate. Okay. Xie Yan paused, then gave a faint smile. I thought Zhang Miss would have a bit of backbone. I didn't respond and continued, I have a condition too. Invest money in my dad's company. I paused, my tone calm. He can make a comeback. I also know that you, now, have the ability to do that. He was silent for a few seconds. Then he responded decisively, fine. After the deal started, Xie Yan came to the rented apartment every night. Until the 5th night. I pushed against his shoulder. Xie Yan, you're 25 now, right? He paused. Why? I didn't say anything, just glared at him angrily. A few seconds later, he seemed to finally react. He chuckled lightly. That was another man, not me. He was about to kiss me again, but I turned my head to dodge it. His eyes darkened, and he gripped my chin. Zhang Wan, a mistress has no right to pick the time. I stared at him for a few seconds. Then, resigned, I wrapped my arms around his neck. A night of tangled emotions. The next morning, Xie Yan surprisingly didn't leave, but instead rested his head on his hand, quietly watching me. When he saw me wake up, he spoke. Let's get our marriage license. Letting you enter the tomb of marriage. That's the real revenge. I was too tired to think straight. Fine. Whatever you want. Xie Yan seemed to be hurt by that, raising his voice. Don't overthink it. I'm just getting revenge on you. I turned over. I'm so hungry. The air suddenly became still. A few seconds later, I heard the sound of eggs frying in the kitchen. And a soft voice. Almost done, wife. I didn't think much of it and fell back asleep. Until half an hour later. The smell of fried eggs completely woke me up. I eagerly ran to the dining table, but didn't see what I expected. So, I sat down dejectedly. Why isn't it egg noodles? It seemed like I had triggered some sensitive words. Xie Yan froze for a moment, his expression darkening. He slammed the milk down in front of me. A cold laugh. Egg noodles? I forgot how to make that long ago. Then he grabbed his suit jacket and walked toward the door, stopping before leaving. Zhang Wan, know your place. You have no right to make demands now. The door slammed shut. I picked up my chopsticks and slowly pushed the bread aside, leaving only the round fried egg. The edges were slightly crispy, just how I used to like it. I stared at it for a long time until it cooled completely. Then I shoved it into my mouth, eating it carelessly. After breakfast, I went to Tianfu Mansion to see my mother. Her complexion was rosy, and her spirits were much better. The 2 aunts Xie Yan hired were being gentle, and there were lilies on the table, her favorite. Xie Yan had specifically arranged for them to be sent. My mother grabbed my hand, speaking quietly. Wan, does he Still care for you? I didn't answer, just patted her hand. Don't worry, Mom. After settling those matters, I turned and went to the company. The office was thick with the smell of smoke, but my father's furrowed brow had relaxed. He rubbed his hands, looking awkward. The funds are in, the project's alive. That kid, Xie Yan, really has skills. After a pause, he looked at me. But what's he after by helping us? I interrupted him. Dad, in a few days, I'm going to get the marriage license with him. My father stared, frozen for a few seconds. Then, his face lit up, and he jumped to his feet. Good. Good. You've always liked him, and now he's worthy of you. I didn't respond, turning to look at the gray sky outside. It wasn't even a few days. That afternoon, Xie Yan dragged me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. When we came out with the red book, I was still a bit dazed. He had already started the car, driving in the opposite direction. The car stopped in front of a quiet villa. Xie Yan got out first. He turned back and looked at me. We'll live here from now on. I followed him into the empty living room. He took off his jacket. I won't hire a maid. You'll be in charge of all 3 meals. I subconsciously replied, but I don't know how to cook. Xie Yan tugged at his tie. His voice cold. Then learn. That night, I struggled in the kitchen until 10 p.m., but still couldn't make anything edible. In the end, we ordered takeout. The next day, 3 aunts appeared in the house. 1 cleaned, 1 cooked, and 1 ironed clothes. I was stunned. Why did you hire so many? Xie Yan tightened his cufflinks without looking at me. 1 takes care of your food, 1 of your clothes, and 1 to make sure you don't burn the house down. He paused, then added, so others don't think I'm abusing you. I was a bit helpless. I just don't know how to cook. Xie Yan interrupted me. He directly commented, spoiled. Then, he grabbed the car keys and left. Less than half an hour after Xie Yan left, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and Lu Feng was standing there with a gift box in hand. Passing by, just thought I'd check on you. Before I could respond, he walked straight in, scanning the living room. He treats you well. I didn't move, my voice cold. If you have something to say, just say it. Lu Feng placed the gift box down and turned to face me. Help me make a connection. The Lu family wants to cooperate with Xie Yan. I said nothing, walking over to Aunt Chen and taking the broom from her. Lu Feng's smile froze, and he immediately stepped back. Don't rush. This collaboration will benefit your dad as well. Does he listen to you now? I gripped the broom and looked at him. He pointed to the gift box. A little token. Think about it. After that, he turned and left, not pressing further. When the door closed, I returned the broom to Aunt Chen. The gift box stood there on the couch, staring at me. I couldn't be bothered, thinking I'd deal with it when Xie Yan came back. I turned and went into the study. This study used to be his, but now it's mine. I spread out the design sketches. The clothing design draft I'd been dragging on for a week had to be finished today. When I looked up again, it was already noon. Aunt Chen gently knocked on the door, reminding me to eat. When I walked to the dining room, Xie Yan was sitting at the table, his expression dark and frightening. Why are you back for lunch? I was a little surprised, as he never came home for lunch. He didn't answer, his gaze fixed on something behind me. I followed his eyes. The gift box was still glaring at me, sitting on the living room couch. I understood, and quickly explained. Lu Feng sent it. He wants to cooperate with you. Xie Yan didn't move, his expression still cold. I picked up a piece of rib and said, if you don't believe me, open it yourself. It has nothing to do with me. It seemed like he'd been waiting for me to say that. He immediately stood up, walked over to the couch, and started unwrapping the gift. The packaging was intricate, and he tore at it a little roughly. Eventually, a small velvet ring box appeared, along with a card. My heart sank, and I walked over. Inside the ring box was the engagement ring that Lu Feng and I had exchanged years ago. The card had familiar handwriting, and the French phrase, Je t'aime, was written on it. Xie Yan held the ring, his knuckles turning white. I turned to leave, but he suddenly lifted his eyes, his voice cold as ice. This diamond's so small, the cut's average. He turned to look at me, his gaze sharp. Do you like this? I immediately shook my head. No, I don't like it. It's too small, and the quality's not great. He stared at me for a few seconds before letting go of the ring. The ring, still in its box, dropped heavily into the nearby trash can. So we had a very silent meal. I knew he was a bit upset, but I didn't plan to coax him. This wasn't really my fault. I'm young, beautiful, and talented. It's not unusual for men to give rings. It's just that Xie Yan, he's never given me one. At 10 to 30 p.m., Xie Yan still hadn't come back. Aunt Chen and Aunt Zhang had been lingering around, exchanging glances. I couldn't stand it anymore. I patted the couch and said, "Come, let's watch this variety show. It's really funny." Aunt Zhang hesitated and sat down next to me, then spoke. "Miss Zhang, you and Mr. Xie just got married, right?" I popped a grape in my mouth. Aunt Chen sat on my other side. "Mr. Xie hasn't come back this late. Shouldn't you call and check on him?" I kept my eyes fixed on the TV. "No need." Aunt Zhang grew anxious. Mr. Xie seemed upset this afternoon. You should comfort him a bit. Marriage requires effort. You know?" I looked at both of them, then wrapped my arms around their shoulders. "Aunties, us women can't just revolve around men, right?" They froze for a moment, then nodded, half understanding. The variety show on TV was lively, when suddenly the villa door opened. A woman in a fitted skirt helped Xie Yan inside, walking straight to the kitchen. Soon, she came out holding a cup of tea. Aunt Chen leaned in and whispered in my ear, "That's Secretary Xia. She's been with Mr. Xie for a year." I could tell she had ulterior motives. I popped another grape in my mouth. Oh, both aunts became anxious, one on each side of me. "Miss, you should have some sense of crisis. Mr. Xie is so capable. There are plenty of people eyeing him." I instinctively retorted, "I'm not bad either." Before I could finish, Secretary Xia had already helped Xie Yan upstairs. The master bedroom light turned on. "She's already in the master bedroom." Aunt Zhang nearly jumped up in panic. I stood up and went upstairs as well. The master bedroom door was slightly ajar, and Secretary Xia was bending down to take off Xie Yan's shoes. I walked in, grabbed my pillow and nightgown. "You guys continue." I nodded to them, my tone calm. "I won't interrupt." Then I walked straight into the second bedroom, closed the door, and locked it. About 10 minutes later, Aunt Chen gently knocked on the second bedroom door. "Miss, don't be angry. Secretary Xia has already left." I jumped, instinctively asking, "Did Xie Yan leave that quickly?" Outside the door, I immediately heard Xie Yan's angry voice. "Don't worry about her. Let her sleep wherever she wants." His footsteps faded away. Aunt Chen didn't leave, her voice now quieter. "Miss, the second bedroom doesn't have air conditioning. It'll be cold at night." I then realized that the villa had air conditioning in the maids' rooms, but not in this one. So, I wrapped myself in the blanket. "It's fine. I'm not cold. Aunt, go rest." There was a soft sigh from outside the door, then the sound of footsteps gradually fading away. The room fell completely silent. I kept my eyes open, staring at the shadows of tree branches swaying on the ceiling from the streetlight outside, my mind completely blank. Tears, however, silently slid down, soaking into the pillow, cool and unnoticed. The next morning, at the dining table, Xie Yan silently cut into his sandwich, the clinking sound of knife and fork against the plate filling the quiet. Suddenly, I remembered the second year of college. He had received his first scholarship and said he would treat me to a meal. I casually picked a Western restaurant with a per-person cost of 200. When we went in, I realized he wasn't very skilled with the knife and fork, cutting the steak slowly and forcefully. But he was meticulous, cutting it perfectly, then pushing the plate in front of me. Back then, Xie Yan's ears were a little red. He was so cute. Now, he was very proficient, handling the knife and fork with grace and ease. But he never did anything like that for me anymore. I didn't even have the right to feel sad. As I drifted off in thought, Aunt Lee gently placed a cup of hot milk in front of me. Mr. Xie asked for this to be heated up for you." I nodded and took a sip. Xie Yan, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly put down his knife and fork. He looked over, his gaze deep. "Zhang Wan, is it that no matter what I do, you just don't care?" At the sudden question, all the emotions I had been holding back finally exploded. I put down the milk cup and looked at him. My voice was calm. "Xie Yan, do you think I have any right to be angry right now?" He seemed pierced by something, his eyes swirling with complex emotions. His lips moved, but in the end, he only whispered, "As long as you understand." Then, he grabbed his suit jacket and left, slamming the door a little harder than usual. I shut myself in the study. We were in a cold war now. At 8 p.m., I had already eaten dinner and was sitting on the couch with the aunts watching a variety show. Occasionally, Aunt Zhang would quietly remind me, "Miss, you don't need to force a smile like that." I didn't respond, my gaze blankly fixed on the screen. Suddenly, the couch sank. I didn't realize Xie Yan had returned until he sat right next to me. But I didn't move or look at him. He took out his phone and began scrolling through short videos, the sound playing on loudspeaker. I had been silently cursing his lack of manners when I realized he was repeatedly playing the same video. The background voice said, "We each had our struggles back then. I don't blame you. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 10 times. On the 11th round, I turned off the TV. Xie Yan, is this your new way of getting back at me?" I looked at him. "Congrats. You succeeded." Then, I stood up, ready to head back to the second bedroom. But my wrist was suddenly grabbed, and he wouldn't let go. I stopped, waiting for him to speak. But his voice was very low, almost inaudible. "Come back to the master bedroom tonight. The second bedroom's too cold." I nodded. "Okay." His eyes lit up slightly. "Not angry anymore, Secretary Shaw?" I interrupted him, my voice level. "The boss decides. I have no right to object." Xie Yan visibly stiffened for a few seconds, and his fingers loosened their grip. I didn't pay him any mind, gathering my pillow and nightgown from the second bedroom and heading back to the master bedroom. I washed up, turned off the lights, and lay down. In the dark, the side of the bed sank. He moved closer, his arm wrapping around my waist. I stiffened a little, reminding him quietly, "I'm on my period today." Xie Yan froze for a second but didn't remove his arm. After a few seconds of silence, a cool kiss landed on my forehead. Then, he took my left hand, slowly slipping a cold object onto my ring finger. "Good night, wife." Xie Yan's voice was soft, right next to my ear. I closed my eyes and didn't respond. When his breathing finally steadied, I quietly opened my eyes, using the faint light from the window to look at my finger. A diamond ring, reflecting little shards of light in the darkness. It was bigger and shinier. The fire in my heart seemed to silently, half extinguish. The next day, when I woke up, there was a warm hot water bottle pressed against my abdomen. On the bedside table, there was a thermos and a box of ibuprofen. Back when we were in a relationship, he used to do this for me all the time. But I didn't dare to think too much about it. I quickly got up and started tidying up. After breakfast, I went to my father's company. I didn't expect to see Xie Yan and Secretary Shaw outside the office. He was inside discussing matters with my father, while Secretary Shaw waited outside. When she saw me, she immediately stood up and nodded. "Ma'am." I nodded and was about to walk in. But she suddenly spoke, her voice quiet. "Ma'am, I'm a lesbian. Please don't misunderstand my relationship with Mr. Xie." I froze, turning to look at her. In shock, I asked, "How much does he pay you every month? You even have to take off his shoes?" Secretary Shah's face flashed with a hint of awkwardness. "Mr. Xia's salary is very high, and there's not much work. He rarely gets drunk. The last time was an accident." Before she finished speaking, I already understood. I responded, "Don't worry, I don't misunderstand." She clearly relaxed. I looked at her and suddenly asked, "Does he usually exploit you?" Secretary Shah froze. I continued, "If you want to quit, my design studio is hiring." I handed her my business card. She took it carefully with both hands. This scene happened to be witnessed by Xie Yan, who was coming out of the office. He glanced at the space between us, then said nothing more. He only told Secretary Shah, "The company has things to do. Go back, and have Xiao Li take over." Secretary Shah left quickly. I gave Xie Yan a look, but didn't speak. Walking into the office, my father waved his hand. "The company really has no problems. The weather's nice today. You two should go out for a walk." I froze, looking back at the door. Sure enough, Xie Yan was still waiting outside. In front of my father. I couldn't refuse, so I had to follow him downstairs. Secretary Li had already parked the car at the entrance. The sun was bright, making the pink diamond on my ring finger sparkle. Xie Yan gently opened the car door for me. "I left something at my old rental apartment." He paused and looked at me. "Would you come with me to get it?" I watched the light flicker across my finger. My heart softened for a moment. I agreed. Not long after the car started, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Secretary Shah. "Mr. Xie is very strict with us. The pressure is quite heavy, and I feel like he values Secretary Li more. Following him won't get me far. If it's convenient, I'd like to try working at your studio." I looked up, and Xie Yan was leaning back in the seat, eyes closed, his side profile showing a bit of fatigue. I lowered my head and quickly typed on the screen, "Okay, I'll set a time with you later. Send." The car turned into the familiar old neighborhood, and the scenery outside gradually overlapped with my memories. Half an hour later, the car stopped under an old residential building. Xie Yan unlocked the door, and I followed him inside, sitting by the bed where I had spent many nights. He opened the wardrobe and began folding my old pajamas, putting them into the suitcase. I couldn't help but speak up. I don't need pajamas right now. You don't have to bring these. He didn't stop moving, his voice slightly cold. So, in your view, things from the past shouldn't stay in the present, right? I knew he wanted to bring up that issue again. But today, I didn't want to argue. So, I stood up, ready to leave. As my hand touched the doorknob, his voice came from behind. It was quiet, but clear. 3 million. Was that all the money you had back then? My hand slid off the doorknob. I turned to look at him, deliberately light in tone. Why are you making things up? At that time, my family was doing well. I had millions in my bank account. Don't try to invent some tragic backstory. He interrupted me, his voice heavy. My dad told me. My gaze drifted elsewhere. That old man talks too much. What did he say? Xie Yan stepped closer to me. He said, you used to get 500,000 a month for living expenses, but because you were with me, it got cut down to 100,000. I shrugged indifferently. 100,000 is still a lot. Enough to spend. Then I added, deliberately sounding nonchalant, and spending 3 million to break up with you. I got much more than just 3 million. Quite a deal. Huh? I wanted to say something even harsher. But Xie Yan seemed not to hear me. You insisted on breaking up because you were worried about the Liu family causing trouble for me, right? Back then, I couldn't protect myself, let alone you. I interrupted him, my voice turning cold. Xie Yan, I abandoned you for the money. That's the truth. My words were harsh and biting, dropping like stones into the quiet air. But Xie Yan suddenly smiled, his lips curving slightly, his eyes a little misty. Wan, you're still so stubborn. I stiffened, turning my head away and saying, don't be so full of yourself. He stepped closer again, his voice low but steady. I understand you much better than you think. Your indifference always hides true feelings, and your internal struggle only tortures yourself. Zhang Wan, no one understands you better than I do. My nose tingled, and I quickly blinked, pushing the heat down. So what? I heard myself ask, my voice a bit hoarse. He looked at me, speaking slowly, word by word. So, I'm willing to be used by you. I even hope you'll only use me. He opened his arms toward me, palms up, in a waiting gesture. I didn't move, just watched him. Xie Yan, don't forget, you're here to get revenge on me. He shook his head, his arms still up. No more revenge. A hug. Xie Yan's voice was soft, like a sigh, yet also like a promise. In the end, I couldn't resist. I fell into his warm embrace. This time, I didn't smell the expensive perfume. Only the familiar, faint scent of soap. Extra. Xie Yan's perspective. That day, she gave me 3 million as a breakup fee. No hesitation, no looking back. And completely left my world. I held the bank card, my knuckles turning white, making up my mind. I rejected the job offer from Jingsheng Capital. With the 3 million, I started my own business. A year later, the number in my account grew to 30 million. I wore an expensive custom suit and stood outside the hotel where she and Lu Feng were getting engaged. The waiter stopped me. Sir, may I see your invitation? I heard laughter from inside, and whispers as the waiter passed by, holding champagne. The Lu family is really generous this time. I've heard the betrothal gifts alone are more than this. He made a gesture. I stood in the golden, lavish hallway, the $30 million card in my hand suddenly feeling as light as a feather. In that moment, I thought I hated her. Later, I realized I only hated myself for being so empty back then, unable to keep her. 2 years later, my company had solidified its position in North City. Even the Liu family extended a cooperation offer. I thought I'd probably succeeded and should move on. But then, the news of the Zhang family's bankruptcy spread like wildfire. And then, the Liu family unilaterally called off the engagement. For some reason, I found myself driving to her villa. Watching her, in a thin nightgown, being thrown out of the home she had lived in for over 20 years, landing on the road. I walked up to her, saying the words I had been preparing for 3 years. Zhang Wan, I'm here to take revenge on you. My voice was cold and clear, each word deliberate. But in my heart, I knew exactly what I was doing. Later, revenge became my clumsiest excuse. I said the harshest things, but my eyes never left her. She frowned, I got irritated. She shed tears, and my heart tightened. But I couldn't bring myself to admit it. Until her father found me inside. Xiao Wan really loved you back then. She just didn't have the ability or the means. Breaking up was the best option for both of you at that time. The self-deceiving veil was suddenly ripped open. I knew I had to be brave for once. So, I took her back to the rental apartment. The place where we started out valley and ended so suddenly. I laid out all my twisted feelings, all my unwillingness, all the emotions hidden beneath revenge, in front of her. She listened, her eyes turning red. But she still held her head high, stubborn as ever, hiding her softness beneath sharp words. But it was okay, this was the Zhang Wan I loved. After everything was said, she threw herself into my arms and cried for a long time. Her shoulders trembling. I rubbed her head, my throat tight, unable to speak. I think I hated her at one point. Hated how she had been so blunt during the breakup, not caring for my fragile ego. But without that event that made me wake up, I probably wouldn't have been able to hold onto her, or protect myself. Let alone be standing beside her like this now, with pride. Zhang Wan cried for about half an hour, then slowly stopped. Then, her stomach let out a soft growl. I looked down, watching her damp lashes flutter. I smiled and said, "I'll go make egg noodles." She raised her red eyes. "Do we have ingredients?" I nodded and turned to head to the kitchen. She followed me, standing at the door. "Have you been living here since the breakup?" I didn't answer her question. Instead, I asked, "Why don't you ask me why I always wash your old pajamas?" As I dropped eggs into the pan, the sizzling sound started. She didn't answer, so I kept talking. My voice was calm. "You don't wear them anymore, but I still have use for them, so I have to take them." After frying the egg, I glanced at her. I saw a blush creep up her cheeks. She turned away, muttering softly, "Shameless." Then, she quickly ran back to the living room. Her little jog was so cute. While we were eating the noodles, she suddenly spoke. "I really didn't know about Lu Feng giving me a ring. He might have been playing a prank." I hummed in response, picking up the fried egg and placing it in her bowl. "I know, just eat." She saw my calm expression and didn't say anything more. Actually, in this time, I had already taken 3 projects from the Lu family. Lu Feng should be throwing a fit right now, I thought to myself, but I didn't plan to tell her. After finishing the noodles, it was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She put down her chopsticks, blinking her eyes. "Want to take a nap here? The sheets are pretty clean." I froze. "Aren't you on your period?" She smiled mischievously. "Kidding. Who told you to keep making me mad?" I sighed helplessly, putting down the bowl and lifting her in my arms toward the bedroom. Then, gritting my teeth, I asked, "Zhang Wan, are you really the one heaven sent to take revenge on me?" But she hugged my neck, leaning in and kissed the corner of my mouth. Her voice was soft. "Husband, don't be mad." "All right, I'm not mad anymore." The shadows of the trees outside shifted, sunlight filtering through the old iron window, landing on her peaceful sleeping face. At that moment, I thought happiness was right beside me.